With the NFL draft fast approaching, let's take stock of some of the soon-to-be rookies who will take over our lives over the next 2 months. Between best ball drafts and the upcoming rookie drafts for your dynasty leagues, it's important we get acquainted with some of the lesser-known names in this draft class. These are some of the under-the-radar rookies you need to know. Let's start with Israel Abanikanda, who is starting to get some buzz as the NFL draft approaches. Izzy accrued over 2,000 yards on the ground in his last two college seasons, with 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns coming in 2022. The yards ranked 10th out of all draft-eligible running backs, and the scores ranked first. All of the extra work on the ground really ate into his receiving production. Still, he did finish 2021 with 24 receptions on 30 targets, which is right in the range we're typically looking for as an indicator of future fantasy success through the air. Abanikanda had a fantastic pro day in Pittsburgh and clocked in with a 9.88 relative athletic score out of 10, running under a 4.4 and hitting 41 inches on the vertical. Both that vertical and his 10'8" broad jump would have ranked first in the entire class had he participated in the NFL scouting combine. At 5'11", 216 pounds, his coveted size speed profile is providing a boost to his real-life NFL draft stock, and we should be taking notice in the fantasy community. Izzy had a rare 46.5% college dominator rating, which puts him in the 97th percentile. He's only 20 years old, and there are still a surprising amount of NFL teams that sneakily have a need at the position. There are teams like the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Bengals who either already need help or may need some help very soon. Izzy's coming off of best ball draft boards as the RB64 in the 18th round. He's coming off Dynasty rookie draft boards as the RB11. This is as late as the third round, particularly in Superflex leagues. Another running back who's kind of falling off the radar in that second or third tier of prospects is Syracuse's Sean Tucker. Tucker was involved in the Syracuse passing attack in a way that we don't typically see at the college level. He had 37 receptions, 262 yards, and 2 scores on 52 targets during his junior year. That 15.8% target share clocked in at the 95th percentile, and he offered plenty on the ground as well. He would rack up 2,500 rushing yards and 23 touchdowns in his final 2 seasons. This was on a Syracuse offense that ranked 7th and 11th in scoring offense in the ACC, winning 12 games. His fit at the next level is certainly going to impact how useful he can be in fantasy, but I feel like his production profile should be getting a little more buzz. Tucker is an explosive back that can translate into a big play threat at the next level, as evidenced when he finished second amongst all Power 5 backs in yards after contact in 2021. He's coming off underdog draft boards as the RB51 in the 15th round. Things look a little better in Dynasty land, where he's got an ADP as the RB6 according to DLF's data. Depending on who takes him in the NFL draft, people will start to push him up best ball draft boards very soon. Those two running backs are under the radar, but if you're a mainstay in the Dynasty streets, you're likely already familiar with them. To dig a little bit deeper, let's talk about Cincinnati wide receiver Tyler Scott. At 5'11", 185 pounds, Scott is a little on the smaller side, but that is a very common complaint about this wide receiver draft class. He would be easy to overlook if he didn't have the speed required to overcome that small stature. Scott ran an official 4.4 40-yard dash and has been clocked as low as a 4.29 in the past. That speed shines through clearly on film, where he operates as an outside receiver with burners. After playing second fiddle to Alec Pierce in 2021, Scott would turn his 55 receptions into 900 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. Unless his future team at the next level sees something in him that the Bearcats did not, there isn't a lot of nuance to the speedy receiver's formations. He lined up in the slot only 26 times in his 3 college seasons. Nevertheless, he showed he could use his explosiveness to consistently get behind the defense. This translated to a number of targets in the intermediate to deep areas of the field, and that could be useful as a future number 2 receiving option and could pay dividends this season as a boom-bust option in best ball leagues. For those of you relatively unfamiliar with the upcoming draft class, the tight ends are one of the deepest groups we've ever seen from the position. So while Utah's Dalton Kincaid may not be under the radar for tight end thirsty dynasty players, he is still likely an unknown commodity for fantasy players as a whole. This tight end draft class has a handful of truly great prospects, a few of which are possibly some of the most well-rounded rookies we've ever seen enter the league at the position in quite some time. And that is exactly what makes Kincaid so intriguing. He is not well-rounded and is very likely to be used almost exclusively as a pass catcher by the team that drafts him. Kincaid graded poorly as both a run and pass blocker when compared to the other tight ends in the first and second tiers. NFL teams clearly know that, so if he gets borderline first-round draft capital attached to this profile, we can essentially treat him like a giant wide receiver prospect, which is exactly what his college stats describe him as. At 46 qualifying FCS tight ends who are draft eligible, Kincaid would rank first in receptions, yards, and yards after contact. He would tie for second in touchdowns and ranked second behind only Michael Mayer with 2.4 yards per route run. Tight ends notoriously take time to develop, but as the position continues to evolve, we're getting more and more useful seasons from rookies. So while he's an obvious target in dynasty drafts, it's reasonable to assume that Kincaid's role can translate at the next level quickly. If he goes in the first round of the NFL draft, that's even easier to bank on.